Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you? Are you feeling better?
I am, thank you. I'm feeling a lot better, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm doing it downstairs on in the most uncomfortable place because I still have a child up, so we're having to hide in the corner. But anyway, I'm feeling a lot better, thank you. Hey Francesca, how are you? Good to see you.
You
Um,
too. I'm good, thank you. You?
Good, yeah, very well, thank you. Now let me just do, okay, brilliant. I've just changed the gallery view. All very good. How are we all? Thank you so much for joining. I don't know whether how many people are going to join tonight. It might just be us three, so it might be very intimate and very laser focused, but that's absolutely fine. So thank you so much for joining, and thank you for rearranging as well last week. I really appreciate it. I don't think I would have been very useful to you last week, but anyway, all good now. So what I know, there's Francesca, you have something specific that you wanted me to look at, and we can definitely look at the Facebook post, so that's great. We
Yes,
can look at it.
please.
Joanna, do you have anything, or are you just coming along? Is there anything particular you want to talk about?
Yeah, I'm just kind of coming along.
That's
Trying to
fine. That's
speak
fine.
to people. You'll have to forgive me. I haven't finished my dinner, so I'll just be like
Don't
nibbling a bit.
worry.
What's
Help
for
yourself.
dinner? What's for dinner?
I've got some chili and rice
Oh, that looks
from
very
the slow
professional.
cooker.
It looks
Yeah,
Yeah.
lovely.
I didn't make it.
I
I
don't do the
can't claim
cooking
credit,
in
but
our
I will
house.
eat it.
Oh, lovely. Well, enjoy that. Well, that's absolutely fine. Brilliant. Well, what I will do, because what I've done, Francesca, is I have moved your, now I've got to find it. I moved your copy into a Google Doc, and I will share the screen. So
I'm happy you're so good.
I'm so the least technical person in the world. Night night. Night night. Oh gosh, you're still not going to bed. Right, okay. So no, I'm not technical at all, but this is one thing I can just about manage, so that's good. But so yeah, we can go through this, and then the other things, I don't know if you've seen, but I've decided, because I do these hot seats and I teach all these things on the hot seats, and I think it's really hard for people to go back through and learn the actual lessons again. So I'm starting from next week. I'm going to start copy class. No, so from next month, I'm going to do one single copy lesson, a short one, so it's not overwhelming, on top of whatever the masterclass is every month. So there might be some things in here that we might cover in more detail in
I'd love
another
that.
class. But I
That-
think that might be the most useful thing, because I was thinking I could like focus on a specific formula, because I'm going to talk to you about a formula, a couple of formulas tonight to help you writing your Facebook posts. But just I was thinking I could just do a whole masterclass, a copy 101, but that's going to be completely overwhelming. So let's do it that way. So I'm going to just do a single class every month. So it's just one thing that you can learn every month and just start using and ask questions about. I think that's probably the most straightforward way to do it. So let me figure out how to share my screen. Let me find the right one. So you're at the very beginning of your journey, aren't you, Francesca? Is that right?
yes, definitely. So that's why yeah, it's a big step for me, like writing things like these.
So have you posted at all on social media about your business yet? Is this complete like, hello, I'm out,
It's completely, yeah, like I've created a page but it's still hidden, and so this, I want to post this and then I will open it up and I will connect to people, but basically because I don't have a website even yet, I just wanted to introduce myself, at least on the Facebook page, so people know a little bit about me.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, great. And the Facebook, I know a lot of people who have used Facebook business pages in lieu of websites for quite a long time, and it can be effective. The only difficulty with Facebook pages is they don't have great reach, so you have to keep driving traffic to them. They don't show up as much in people's news feeds as much as, say, a Facebook group would, or your personal profile. Obviously, that's more likely to be shown. So that's something to bear in mind. So I don't want you to be discouraged, but it's quite normal that people have business pages, and unless you're really active and constantly driving traffic to them, it can be quite hard to get engagement. But there are people who do it very, very well. But I just want to put that out there and say, you have to um, use your personal profile to drive people there. as well, because you're going to get the reach with your personal profile.
I see.
But the business pages don't show up as much. However, if somebody's looking into you, they're going to want to know that you have a business page, and they're going to want to know who you are on that business page as well. So you know, it's not just the kind of first post, it's kind of your about on the business page as well, making sure that that is, you know, your messaging is really clear about who you are and what you do. And lots of other things, but we can talk about those another time. Okay, so okay, I've got your post here. Can you see it now? Can everyone
Yeah.
see the? Okay, cool. All right, so what I want to
There's
say,
a typo.
don't worry, it's fine. I'll change it for you. So now the whole point, the whole thing that we need to be doing with copy, so this is, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background. So you don't write copy, which is basically the words that you use to promote your business, and essentially copy versus content. So copy is usually, it's the words you use to promote your business, and it's usually kind of persuasive words. That's what copywriting is. It's persuading people to kind of pay attention. And you don't actually write it in the same way that you would write anything you've actually ever been taught to write before, basically, which is a bit of a habit to break. It's funny enough, I was doing my daughter's English the other day, and all the things that she was being taught are all the things that I teach people to not do, like start sentences with the word and or but and things like that, which make it more conversational. But the whole thing what we're trying to do with copy is firstly, the first challenge that you have when you're writing anything is trying to persuade someone to want to read it in the very first place. Okay. And so the first thing you've got to think about is to persuade someone to want to read something that you're writing, is that you have to stop writing it from your point of view, and you have to start writing it from their point of view, and start thinking what they're thinking whenever they land on Facebook and they're scrolling and there's tons of stuff that they could be stopping on. You know, they're scrolling through you know, posts from their best friends and their family and people they vaguely know, and they've got so much to choose from. What they're constantly asking themselves is, what's in it for me? That's basically what it is. And what people are going and showing up on social media for is predominantly for entertainment, possibly inspiration. And what we do through content is we entertain, we inspire, and we also educate and sell, but we're doing it kind of subtly. And that's why content is always taking it from the point of view of the reader, thinking what's in it for them, and then you kind of just subtly get your message across as well at the same time. Let me close my emails because that's going to be annoying. 2 seconds. So what's happened there? Right, so the first thing is, that is why when you start off and you immediately start in with the word I, people tend to not notice. So the most important words in copywriting is always you and your. So you might notice if you go on some well-written websites, they are always written from, this is what I can help you do, this is, you know, this is how you're feeling, this is what your problem is, and it's what XYZ. It will not lead with any I's, we's, or ours, because that doesn't grab people's attention. The minute you lead with anything that is you're in there, you know, you say, I understand you, I see you, I hear you, then you're going to grab their attention, because they think it's about me, I'm interested in this now. Okay, so that means, so we have a bit of a challenge when we're first writing any post. How are we going to grab their attention and let them know, hello, this is for you, this is for you, I want you to stop, hello, I want you to read this. And so that's what your challenge is. Okay, so just having given you that background, I'm going to just scroll down and you can see, and I think, having just had a quick look while I wolfed down my dinner as well, but this is the first time really, hang on, let me just double check, but I think that's right. Yes, this is the first time down here, you. all the way
Yeah.
down there. Okay. And what we need to do is kind of turn it upside down. So basically, the rule is nobody cares who you are until they know what you can do for them. That's the number one rule. So this is where the money is. This is your little gold nugget here. This is your hook down here, because it's the first time that you started talking to them and who they are. So what you need to do is you need to figure out, so my ideal client is somebody who is an empath. I don't know whether whether they know they're an empath or not, whether that's something you have to educate them about, or whether they, some people, this is the other thing you've got to get, the thing is, at what stage are your ideal customers at? Do they know that they're empaths? Do they know that they're highly sensitive people? Or are you going to have to get their attention in another way, by describing what their problem is, and they think, oh my goodness, that's me. So that's something that only you can know through getting really familiar and up close and personal with who you want to work with. So that's the first thing you need to know. So I think, so empaths are highly sensitive people, often described as emotional sponges. We absorb other people's feelings. Now there was a line, you are not too sensitive, and there's nothing wrong with being who you are. And start seeing your sensitiveness as something to be proud of. I think that's possibly the strongest hook there is, because automatically you can grab their attention with the idea that that they're about to hear something. So what's a belief that they have? They have a belief that being sensitive is a weakness.
Yes.
So one way to grab people's attention is by saying something that goes against their belief, and tempting them with the idea that you are either going to tell them the reassuring thing that they need, i.e., your sensitivity isn't your weakness, it's actually your strength, and you're going to prove it to them. Or the other reason that people might read on is if they think, I totally disagree with this person, I'm therefore going to carry on reading on because I want to make sure that, I want to disprove her, she's wrong, it is my greatest weakness. So do you see what I mean? It's kind of like human nature. So much about copy and getting people's attention is that stepping into their shoes and thinking, what's going to spark their interest? What's going to make them stop the scroll? What's going to make them realize I am speaking to them? I'm speaking to you. Because that's the first thing they need to know is, oh, this post is for me. Okay. And so particularly with you, a large part of your messaging, it has to be immediately about, who you work with, and who you help, and the transformation that you take them through. That's basically what your messaging is going to be about, and what you bring to the table. So you are going to want to start a post like this with some kind of statement, some kind of attention grabbing thing that instantly lets them know, this post is talking directly to me, and there's something that she's going to share inside this which is going to help me see something differently, change my perspective, inspire me, or whatever. Okay. Now, this all sounds, this is just to kind of give you context. I know you're probably, when I'm telling you all this, you're thinking, this is overwhelming, I don't know how to do this.
No, it makes sense. It makes
Is
sense.
that okay? Okay,
yeah,
brilliant.
Basically, it's the opposite approach to what I have done, pretty much.
Basically, so I often say when I'm teaching copy is you kind of have to turn your copy upside down. You kind of literally go upside down. So you move from being in your shoes to their shoes, and what you want to say first comes last, and what they want to hear first comes first. That's the most important thing, because the biggest challenge that anyone has with copy is just getting someone to actually take the time and read it in the first place. That is the biggest challenge, which is why things like headlines and first lines are the absolutely most important, crucial thing that you're ever going to write. Whether we're talking about an email, it's the subject line is the most important thing, because that's going to determine whether they open the email or not. In a Facebook post, it's probably the first line, or possibly if you have a picture. So sometimes the pictures add as the sometimes you can use images to pique people's interest, or you can use words over images, because that obviously people, I can't remember what the statistic is, but people are, I don't know, 30 times more likely to read words that are over an image. So you've got to think, you know, how am I going to grab their attention? So that's the first thing. What's my angle? Now, the other thing that's going to make writing these kind of posts, so once you know that you've got to step into their shoes, once you know you've got to grab their attention, and once you know that you've got to have a promise of something, that's really what it is. You've got to, in the opening line or sentences, promise that they're going to get something out of this. So an answer to a question, some enlightenment, new perspective, you know, be let into a secret about something. You know, that's the promise. So every headline, every first line has some kind of promise, and then all copy is then built on that. And what you then have to do is you lead with the most compelling thing, and then you have to try and move them down the copy so they carry on reading. So kind of every word, every sentence really does count in copy, because it's constantly about trying to keep their attention. So one way that you can learn to do that, which makes this feel so much easier to do, and I'm going to be doing some teaching on this, and I have spoken about this before, but I'm going to be doing some teaching on this in the copy class, is, I don't know if you're familiar, if you've ever heard of writing formulas.
No.
Now, so pretty much anything you read that's been professionally written, whether consciously or unconsciously, will follow a writing formula. Because, you know, it's funny, because I wrote for years. I mean, I've written for my work for years, and so I'd never heard of a writing formula before I started learning how to teach copy. But what I discovered was that I just naturally copied these age-old formulas that people use over and over again, and I just did it naturally, because that's how I learned to write. And the great news is, for people who aren't familiar with it, is there are some pretty standard formulas that you can literally choose, and then you can use them to structure your copy in this kind of compelling way, where you grab their attention, then you kind of draw them in, and then you hook them a little bit more, and then you go all the way down. So the whole point of copy is grab their attention, give them the information they need, and then it's taking them to a call to action, because you always want them to do something. And it's not necessarily you want them to buy something, but you want them to do something. You want them to either engage, or you want them to go and check out a freebie, or you want them to ask you a question or something like that. So you need to decide before you write a post, before you write anything, so there's two things you need to decide. What value am I going to offer them today? What kind of change in perspective am I going to offer them? Is it going to be, I'm going to teach them something, I'm going to change their perspective on something, I'm going to inspire them to do something different? So what's the value you're offering them? Then you need to know what you want them to do at the end of it. So what action do you want them to take? So maybe it would be, if you had a freebie, check out my freebie. Or maybe it is that you just want them to start engaging in the thread so you can get to know them. So they're the two things you need to decide. What's the value I'm offering? What's the action I want them to take? And the other question, actually, which I should have said before, is what do I want them to understand? You know, how is this moving them on in their journey to understanding about my brand? So if we always think that when we're doing any kind of content marketing, when anyone enters our world for the very first time, we are kind of looking to move them onto a certain journey. You know, we're either they're coming into our world for the first time, you want them to engage with us. So you've kind of struck up a relationship, and then you might want them to sign up to a freebie so they're on your email list. And then the next section might be you want them to buy a, you know, cheap, low cost product. That might be the next thing. The next thing is you want to get them onto a discovery call. And all these things is essentially kind of moving them into a deeper level of commitment. And you want them to engage every time, because once they engage with you in some way, they're more likely to pay attention to you. They're more likely to remember you. They're more likely to read another post. And so when you're not thinking of every single post or piece of content that you're putting out there as an opportunity to get them to move a little bit along in that journey, it's kind of a wasted opportunity. You're not using that opportunity to its fullest. It doesn't mean that, you know, they won't read a post and not remember you, but it helps when they're actually actively trying to engage in some way. So what value am I offering? Change of perspective, inspiration, what am I teaching? What do I want, you know, what does this mean to me, to my business? How does this move them on? What do I want them to do? And what action do I want them to take? So they're the three things that you need to think about. And so then the next thing, so then I'm going to move you on to the formulas. So I'm going to suggest two really the easiest formulas that you can do. And I'm trying to think what you could actually use either of these for this. So the first one you could use for this, what's happened here? The first one you could use for this is, and I'll type it into here and I can share the document with you if you want it, is called AIDA or AIDA. And that stands for attention, interest. I don't know why the spacing is so random here, but anyway, desire and action. I don't know.
I think I heard of that. It's like, it's a marketing strategy, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And content is marketing to it, you know, it is marketing. It's a more subtle, subtle form of it, but I suppose, you know, it is the marketing there is. So you can use this in writing your copy. And there's, and the other one, which you might have heard of, is PASS, which is problem, agitate, solution. That's another one. It's a really common one. So if I describe it to you, you'll know what I'm talking about. So I always say it's the easiest way to describe these things is always taking weight loss. So the problem is, here's a problem. You kind of paint a picture of what their problem is. Your problem is, it's been Christmas and you can't get into your jeans anymore, and you can't do up your button, and you're stuck wearing your tracksuit bottom. So that's your problem. And so then you agitate it. And if you don't do something about this problem, you might be stuck that size up. You know, if you know, maybe there's some research that says, you know, if you don't lose the weight that you've gained within 30 days, you're more likely to keep it. You're agitating it, you're stirring the pot a little bit. And then the solution always is your product, a freebie, a solution, something, an exercise program, look at this video, look at this diet thing. So that's, you know, you see that everywhere. You see that in adverts all the time. It's the most obvious one. And that's one that you can use often, actually. It's a really good one for teaching. It's a really good one for selling as well. But I'm wondering whether AIDA will work quite well for this, because you're introducing yourself for the first time. You want to get some information across. So the first step is attention. This is, you need to pause the scroll. You need to let them know that you're talking to them, and that, well, basically you need them to know that you're talking to them. So it could be something like, let me scroll down for some information. So you want to get the attention of your ideal client, who is an empath, who is highly sensitive, and who how would you describe their kind of biggest problem? So the biggest problem is they're highly sensitive, and it makes life a struggle in some way. Is there another way you could describe that?
Yes, they get overwhelmed easily if they don't focus on themselves. So basically, yeah, or they often criticize for being too sensitive, and they cover it up.
Okay, and so it stops them from being the fullest person that they could be. It stops them from fulfilling their potential, really.
Yes, and basically they've lost track of themselves, because they've been people pleasing, almost all their life, and then they lost, by putting everyone else in, first, they didn't listen to what their soul was telling them. And now they're at a point where, like, I don't know what to do, because I don't know who I am. I don't know what I need to do next. And that's where I can help.
Okay, so I'm going to go against what I've just said, because there's one exception to the rule when you can start with I, and that is when you're showing empathy and you're letting them know that you see them and recognize them. So you could start with, I know what it's like. I know what it feels like to be highly sensitive, and find and struggle to, I know my mind's gone completely blank, I can't remember what you just said. I know what it's like to be highly sensitive and struggle to and I don't know, and have people say that you're, I know what it feels like to be so sensitive that every day feels like you're having to, I don't know, how do they feel like every day? They're having to suppress their emotions, they're having to apologize, or
Yeah, they have
paint a picture of their problem.
They basically work against their grain, because they maybe would like to listen to themselves and, like, maybe rest or do something that they enjoy, but because they have other responsibilities in life, they fulfill those and they forget about themselves.
Something like that. I know what it feels like to constantly be ignoring your own needs, in favor own needs, because other people need you, because you feel like you need to be another way for other people. Not a great sentence, but you get my meaning, you get my gist, because you feel like other people,
they have, like, expectations of how
want you to behave
they want
differently,
you to be.
want you to be something else. The more tangible you can get, like, the better. So we're always looking for really specific examples. We want to kind of move out of, like, really high abstract ideas. We're a bit abstract at the moment, but
like a corporate, like, I'm thinking, like empath and highly sensitive people are not corporate, and they struggle with, when they're forced into, like, in that mold. So, like, we get, like, really stressed because we are forced to be, like, we are informal, we don't like to be pushed, and corporate is all, like, high achieving, deadlines, you need to do these things quickly, like, we like to follow our own pace, which is normally, like, baby steps, because otherwise we feel stressed out and then overwhelmed.
When it goes totally against, so it's something like that. So you see what I mean? You're painting, what you want to do is grab their attention in the first couple of sentences. I won't carry on, but just you're basically here painting a picture of what their life looks like. And if you were doing problem agitate solution, this is exactly what you do. You'd kind of paint a picture. I know what it feels like to be in a corporate job and feel like you have to be a certain way so you don't let your colleagues down, but when in reality it leaves you feeling, you have this permanent knot of anxiety in your chest and you're constantly feeling like you're failing, and that this is making you feel ill or whatever. So it's really kind of, and the more tangible you get, I've been a little bit abstract there because I'm not totally familiar with your ideal client, but do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
You're showing empathy. I know what it feels like. You're grabbing their attention. You could even have a headline which would grab their attention, which might be something like could be something like, I'll get this to work for some reason. You're being sensitive is your superpower, for example. So they might see that and they think, oh, I'm sensitive. It's not my superpower, it's my weakness. And then so they think, I'm going to read this. I want to know what she's saying about this. And then you say, I know what it feels like showing empathy. I understand you. I see you. And then you're going to paint a picture of exactly what their day looks like. And then you're going to move on to interest. And so for this, it could be, so interest tends to be, when you're kind of moving them on to the interest part of AIDA, it could be something as simple as you might be moving on to a statistic or something. You know, did you know that, I don't know, 90% of empaths burn out within so-and-so days or whatever, but it doesn't have to be like that. What the interest part is basically doing is you're grabbing their attention with the hello, I'm speaking to you, and then the interest is you're drawing them in, you're giving them a little hook. And so for you, this could be a little tiny bit of your backstory, which I think you have. No, you don't. Okay, so it might be a little bit of your backstory. So it might be something like interest. It might be X years ago. I'm going to make this up, but it will give you the gist and you can fill it in with whatever is relevant to you. X years ago, I was working in a corporate job, and I feel like I'm writing a book now. I was working in a corporate job, and the pressure to and I don't know, and I'd look at all my colleagues who were thriving under pressure and seemed to be able to take everything in their stride. I'm actually writing my story in a minute. When I would go home and cry because I couldn't take the expectations, you know, of me. So you're kind of painting a picture. You're kind of like drawing interest, expectations of me, and then we're going to draw them in a bit more. And then I discovered that it didn't have to be like this. You know, that actually being sensitive didn't have to be something that I fought against, but something I could work with and actually be a better employee, you know, friend, child, daughter, or whatever, and you know, finally live a life that fulfilled me.
Oh my God, are you reading my mind?
I'm a psychic, that's my other ability. But do you know what I mean? Just, you know, whatever is relevant to you. But do you see what we've done is we've grabbed their attention. I'm speaking to you, this is what your problem is. You're going to draw them in with interest, and it doesn't have to be a backstory, but this seems the most obvious thing to me, because what you're doing is you're introducing them to you. And whenever you're introducing someone into your world, and what you want to do is transform their lives in some way, if you have a story that reflects their the A to B journey you want to take them on, it really makes sense to mention it, because it makes them feel really, it gives them hope. It's proof that it's possible. It shows that you understand them. Do you understand what I mean? So it just makes sense to have it there.
Yeah,
so
and I think so, because I'm still like working part-time, you know, in the corporate world, but also because of the current situation, it's not like I can jump into like being self-employed. So like what I'm doing now is also like educate my manager, my colleagues about you know, I didn't say like, you know, I'm a highly sensitive person, but I said, you know, like, I need to take things more slowly. I'm not like a higher achiever, like so and so. Like this is my way. So like you can educate
Yeah.
your employer to like, okay, yeah, like
This is how you get the best out of me.
it's yeah. And I, for example, I can't multitask because I get too stressed and like I don't get anything done. I just need to do one task at a time and then move on. And that's what I said to my manager, like, I need to do one task, move on to the next. Do it well. I want to do it well and move on. And then she was like, oh, yeah. Like I'm like a multitasker. Like I do like 100 things at the time. And I was like, okay, but this is not how I am. And to get like the best of me, let me work my way. I will get the results you want, but like bear with me kind of thing.
Okay, so there you go. There's another piece of content for you. Not for this one. This is a different kind of story strand. So if you wanted to do another piece of teaching content, and your message would be around, you know, you don't have to conform. You don't have to try and be something that you're not. You can, when you're allowed to work to your strengths and in the way that suits you, you can be every bit as productive and as useful and as valuable part of a team as the other people. But you just have to make sure people understand, and you would do that piece of content by telling that story. You know,
Yeah.
I was working in the corporate world, they were making me work one way. I realized that this is not what works for me, sat down, had a conversation with my manager, and I explained to her, you know, X, Y, Z, and she, you know, she realized this, and so now this is what happens. And then your message could be, you know, it's not always easy having these conversations, but it's so much more important that, you know, the people around you understand you, you know, because it makes you
Yeah, otherwise they think you might be lazy, but that's not the case.
Yeah. So, you know, so maybe the hook would be, you know, helping, understanding myself so I could help other people understand me was a life changer. Here's how you can do it. And then you could tell your story, and then you could have, do you see what I mean? So that's another piece of content as well. So there's, you know, you will definitely have tons of examples from your working life, from your personal life, where you have applied these skills that you know, these lessons that you've learned, and you can use them as teaching moments for your audience. That is going to be a massive part of your content. So what I would do if I were you is just every time you think of something like that, story like that, make a note of it, and you know that that's a piece of content that you can create and use as a teaching moment as well. So okay, so that's the interest, you're drawing them in. So the desire, so the other things, remember, we're always talking about what's in it for me, because people are very selfish when they're reading copy, and very self-centered. And so then this is where you paint the picture of what they could have, what they really want. So it could be, let me just see what we have. Next years ago I was working in a corporate job, that actually being sensitive didn't have to be something that I fought against, but something I could work with and actually be a better employee, friend, daughter, whatever I am. So then you could even paint a picture of what your life is now. Now I understand myself. Now I hang on, I'm just trying to think of the next step. So we want to introduce you as an expert. So and so then you could have here, I could work with in front of, and that's why I decided to retrain as a coach for highly sensitive, for coach for empaths, or as a coach.
Yeah, for like, I think highly sensitive people, because it's like a bigger bracket, because maybe like them, you know, they're more highly sensitive people than empath. But also like an empath is very specific.
And you have a
bit
very
woo.
specific, belief.
It's a
You have
bit
a very
woo.
specific belief.
So like, I mean, then you can, I think, I aim at highly sensitive people, and then they might discover that they are also empath.
Mhm. You've got to decide. I mean, because if you went for empaths, for example, you would attract a very specific type of person, someone who resonates with that term and recognizes it. Highly sensitive people is more of a as a broader term, I suppose.
Yeah.
So so then what you would want to do, and again, it is always what's in it for me. That's why I decided to retrain as a as a coach, helping highly sensitive people to achieve XYZ, to achieve XYZ, whatever it is, whatever the transformation. What is the A to B transformation? You can just sum it up in a couple of words. And so then you could just paint a picture of what their life could be like. Okay, so what does the transformation look like for them? So how would it feel? This is a bit of a blunt way to do it. It's just the most easiest way. It's not necessarily how I'd do it if I was crafting something, but it's the most obvious way. How would it feel to finally understand that, understand or have compassion for yourself, or finally understand that it's not your fault. That's another one that you could get your attention. That's another way to get attention, is starting off with, it's not your fault that you're so sensitive. That's another one, because again, people always want to be relinquished of blame. So that's another great one that grabs people's attention. It's like, it's not your fault that you crashed the car, it was an icy road or whatever. But people, that's always going to grab people's attention. How would it feel to finally understand that it's not your fault, that you've been, how would it feel to finally realize, I think I'm creating another piece of content here for you. How would it feel to finally realize that it's not your fault that life feels such a struggle, and that it's simply that you're trying to fit a mold that just isn't you.
Is it you?
Isn't
Yeah.
you. And to finally understand what your natural rhythm is. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just make it what your natural rhythm is, how you can be more productive, and and meet all your responsibilities
Without feeling stressed all the time.
without feeling stressed and anxious, and sacrificing your inner peace. That's not how you spell peace. That's not how you spell responsibilities either, but anyway. And you can leave it at that. You could add more things, and then the final stage of AIDA is action. So intro piece is, what do you want them to do? You haven't got a freebie yet, so it won't be that.
I want to coach them, basically, like, yeah, as you said, like they discover,
so
get in touch with me.
Yeah. So then the action is, if you'd like to learn how coaching could help you benefit, I don't know, so it could be something like create a life that fits around your needs, and then this is the key thing. So you always want your copy to be benefit driven. So we're always talking about in the outcome. So we're never talking about the process. So you're never saying, if you'd like to have 12 coaching sessions with me and pay me £550 or whatever it might be. So you're always talking about the benefits. You always talk about the outcome. So if you'd like to learn how coaching could help you create a life that fits around your needs, or whatever, the really burning benefits might be. So you can, and then this is like the big benefit. So you can finally I don't know, do the things I don't know, finally, I don't know, go for that. I don't know. I'm just thinking of tangible things, or really go for that promotion, or have the confidence to set boundaries, and tell people what you need or whatever. Have confidence in yourself. Let's jump on a call. Let them know what the next step is. Let's jump on a call. And then you could have, like, comment below, or so comment below is one I've used recently because I haven't got a lot of because I haven't been in my Facebook group, so the algorithm has dropped. So then you use something like comment below because you're trying to encourage engagement for more people to see the post, because obviously Facebook thinks the more likes and the more comments it's going to boost the algorithm. We don't know this for sure, but it's pretty no one knows, but pretty obvious that is the case. So you could do comment below, or you could do send me a DM, or get into my DMs. It depends what you feel like. If you think you're going to do comment below and you're not going to have anything and it's going to make you feel rubbish about it, don't do that. Do send me a DM, because then nobody ever knows. But yes, and then just being really directional with the next step. So if you want to do so and so you can do so and so, have this amazing benefit, or you want to find out more about it, the next step is jump on a call. To jump on a call with me, you have to either send me a DM or you have to comment below and I'll message you, or here's my email or whatever. But I think if you're on Facebook, keep it within Facebook because it's easier. People are not going to go out and click into their email and do all that whatnot. So yes, that is basically how you would do that. And do you see that it's completely turned what you wrote upside down?
Yeah.
So the key takeaways are, you've got to put yourself in their shoes. If you're using too much I, we, and our, you're not writing in the right way. You're just you're kind of preaching. So when the rule is, when you're using I, we, and our too much, not in an empathetic sense, as in I understand or whatever, it's like you're having a monologue. When you use you and your, it makes them feel like they're having a conversation with you, as though you were speaking to them one-on-one. And that's why everything with copy is so important about using specifics, using tangible things. So rather than talking about big abstract things, you're sensitive and you feel anxious all the time, and you're such a worrier, that's fine, you can use those things, but you want to bring them down into the tangible things, which are the things that paint pictures. Like every time you go into work, or every time you open an email, every time an email pings into your inbox, you feel sick because you feel like you've done something wrong. Or painting a picture of my anxious life here, or I don't know, or you're constantly, if someone asks you to do something, you always say yes. You say yes, yes, yes all the time, even though it's kind of running ragged and making you feel ill and miserable. So it's constantly thinking about the tangibles.
Yeah, that's my ideal client, because what I've learned to set boundaries and to say no, and not to over commit and overbook myself. So like my ideal client is over committing without realizing.
Yeah, so that's another piece of content for you. So there you go.
I've got loads of ideas. I've got it's just like have to put it in one.
So I think the next step for you don't have to. So this is the mistake that people make, is they feel like they have to communicate everything in every single piece of content, and it's absolutely not the case. It just is overwhelming and confusing. The rule of thumb is have one goal for each piece of content, just one goal. So your one goal is letting them see that you see them, that you recognize them, and that you help people like them. That's all you need to tell them in this piece of content. You might have another piece of content which is helping them understand about boundaries. So then you might so it could be another story piece of content where you talk about how you've learned to set boundaries, or set expectations with your own clients. Or it could be literally a more kind of teaching piece of content, is like 3 ways to set boundaries in your life today. So, you know, there's different levels. So, you know, there's the storytelling, which is really powerful, but then sometimes people just want something which is going to give them some really actionable, something that really actionable stuff. I think the stuff that's really going to get attention is something that's framed with a story at the moment. Maybe driving to more practical stuff like on a blog or something like that. Because I think people are a bit overwhelmed with educational stuff. You know, everywhere you go, there's like 10 ways to do this and 5 ways to do this.
Yeah, I feel overwhelmed. That's why, like, I'm not going in Instagram, for instance, because I think every time I see, like, I still think, here we go. There's another person telling me like how I should live my life, or like what I should be doing, or you know.
And that's why I think it really is right now. There is a lot of overwhelm going on at the moment. And at the moment when you're trying to create connection and you're just getting people to pay attention to you and see you, you need to, it doesn't mean that you can't give that value, but you need to draw them in with something else, and a story, and that kind of empathy, and that is going to be much more appealing to somebody to sit down and read a story. We all love sitting down and reading a story and getting a bit nosy about where someone's from and what's happened in their life. And then if you can then add in, you know, here's 5 things that I did, or 3 things that you could do right now, because they've become engaged. They're engaged with the story. They're feeling it. They're feeling the emotions. And then
they engage with me as a person, as a, you know, as a coach and as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's just like an Instagram story.
Yeah,
like
and
very superficial.
And I think we all need to work a bit harder at that now, because there's just so much. There's so much anyway. There's so much out there anyway now. There's a lot of the same stuff out there. You know, really, you know, I don't teach anything different to anybody else who teaches what I teach. We all know the same things. The only thing that makes my stuff more appealing to maybe read than somebody else's is if you like me, I suppose.
And your personality. For instance, like what drew my attention to you is like, it's your personality, the way. Like when you, for instance, what drew me in was like when you said that I work with light workers. I can't remember something else.
Coaches and creators. You're getting really specific there, so that's where you need to be thinking about your language around how you actually describe the people you're working with. And you know, I don't know how far you've gone with this, but you know, it is something that evolves how you describe it. I didn't describe it like that 3 years ago when I first started. I think actually I always wanted to work, and I spoke about heart-led entrepreneurs, heart-centered entrepreneurs. That's what it was. And then you get more specific and you kind of chip away and you start figuring out who your ideal client is, and it becomes more obvious. But the whole thing is making people realize that you are only speaking to them. You are their ideal client. You are their people.
That's it. It's a soul connection. That's it. That's how it has to be.
Yeah, exactly that. And so that's why you shouldn't be afraid to be who you are, because if you're not, you don't.
Because you can't
right people.
You can't meet other people if you're not true to yourself. And that's something I've learned myself. You know, if you don't know who you are, then how can you attract the right people? You know, you're like your soul tribe, as you call it.
It is, and I do think, you know, starting a business is such a personal development journey. You can't run an online business, particularly a personality-driven online business where you are the face of your business. You do kind of necessarily go on this journey of really figuring out who you are and what lights you up, and who you like working with and who you don't want to work with, and what you're saying around boundaries, you know. And that's another thing that you can do in your content as well, is like really kind of making clear, this is who I work with, this is how I work, you know, setting up people's expectations around the boundaries of how you work. I think it's really important, because you know, the whole time you're weeding them out. So if they do get on a discovery call, it's more likely to be a successful, fruitful call. You know, whether they go through or not, you know that you're not wasting time trying to figure out if you're a good fit. That's what this is all about as well.
That's why even for me, it's like I will do a website, like just a landing page or whatever it's called. But because for me, looking at a website. It doesn't tell me anything about the person that I will be working with. So I chose to start with Facebook because then I can showcase my personality, my soul to my customer, and that's the kind of customer I want.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. I mean, a lot of people start with their website before having a social media presence, and how are you going to drive enough traffic to that website without having a social media presence? So it does make sense to do it the way around, definitely. And then once you're clear on who you are, you can then spend some time writing your website. As Joanna knows, it can take a long time to do. So, but yeah, so does that feel good?
Yes, I will. Yeah, I will rewrite it following your AIDA.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got it. Like you got me. It's pretty much, maybe because our stories are at the end of the day very similar.
Yeah, well, I think you attract like people, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
So, but yeah, I kind of, yeah. Oh, good. I'm so pleased. So hopefully if you go away, and then you can always think about those things. I can't remember the first three things. I think, one goal for one piece of content. So you only want to get them to do one thing. Getting really clear on what value you're offering them. What's the change of perspective, the education, and what action do you want them to take, and where's it moving them on in your journey? As in, is it the first time they're going to engage with you? Is it the first time they're going to get on your email list? Are you trying to encourage them to check out a blog or whatever it might be, depending on where you are in growing your business? So I think that's the main things. So brilliant.
Thank you
That's
so
great.
much.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. My pleasure. But as I say, I'm going to start doing the copy classes where I can teach things like this in more detail. And so then people can do the class, and then we can come on the hot seat, and we can then, I can do less of the teaching on these calls, and we can just be, workshopping it, I suppose. So that's the plan. So hopefully
Yeah,
that
it
will
would be
work.
amazing. I would be like, I would be there, like first row. Literally.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. That'd be brilliant. Excellent. Great stuff. So I'll tell you what, I will share that with you. If you what's your email address, and I can share it with you. If you want.
I've got like a Google one or a Yahoo one, whatever.
Do you want to just message it to me, because it's going to recording and go and thing. You don't want everyone to have your email address necessarily. So if you just message it to me, and I'll share this document with you, and then you've got that there to play with. Yeah.
Yeah, and then can I rewrite it and then email it to you again to proofread, or like?
You can pop it in the group, or you can bring it again along to next week's hot seat. If you want to pop it in the group, in the Facebook group, I can have a quick look and give you a little bit of feedback. I tend to do the hot seating on the monthly call though.
Yeah.
So that's how
when
we do
is
it.
the
We can always
next
post in
one?
the group for quick feedback. So the next one will be in February, and it's usually about the third week in the month that it happens.
Okay.
But I can't remember the exact date off my top of my head, but it will be all on the you'll get all the dates whenever February rolls around. I've figured it out. So brilliant. Great.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. You're so welcome. You're so welcome. Joanna, do you have anything to add or anything to ask, or?
Yeah, a few thoughts, I suppose.
Yeah, go on.
So that was all really interesting actually, because I've been sat down today trying to redo my about me, but it's that I'm trying to still kind of do the like homepage copy and then the actual like about me page copy. So yeah, that's actually given me lots of little
AIDA is really good for
pointers.
about me, actually.
Yeah, and I know we talked about it before and it's come up here and there, but I'd like, because I just sort of everything kind of website planning and everything just I'm sort of only really picking it up now from like late last year, so it's all kind of gone completely out of my mind. So
Yeah, no,
that was like
absolutely.
very useful.
Oh, good. So hopefully, I think it always helps if you're really struggling with something, and if it feels like pulling teeth and it's not working, always think, okay, what formula can I use to just make this a little bit easier? And there are tons of them, but you could actually just get away with just using those two quite often over and over again, and do it. So I'm doing, it's not exactly strictly, but I'm working with somebody on their book, and we're just using the PASS formula over and over again in every single chapter, because it just works, and it's just so practical and so easy to draw people in. And so so yeah, so if you're struggling with something and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, just always go back. And I'm guilty of this. I start writing things and I'm thinking, why is this not working? This isn't working. And then I think, oh, I'm not, I'm like, I'm not giving the right structure. And then you think, okay, I need to do this. I need to do AIDA or whatever. Generally I don't, but sometimes I do really struggle with something. It's like pulling teeth, and that's when you can go back and grab a formula and go back to all the principles and just remind yourself of them all, because it's so easy to get lost in words. It really is. So
I think it's especially if it's about yourself. Like, I could do it so easily for other. It seems so much simpler for me when it's somebody else, but when it's yourself, it's like, but I think it
is hard. It is hard writing about yourself, because you don't know. You have to really keep checking yourself. So this is interesting to me. Is it interesting to them? Am I going on too much about this? Am I not actually showcasing the part that they really care about because I'm embarrassed? Is the other thing that we tend to do, and kind of like hiding our light under a bushel is the other thing that we tend to do a little bit. Funny enough, we did the webinar yesterday, and there was a question about being embarrassed about being described as an expert, and I think that's such a common thing that we kind of, particularly as women, we kind of downplay that and underplay that, and yet you are an expert, and that can often create some hiding, I think, in how we write when we're writing things that are about me's and stuff like that. So, but then an about me page is actually about them. So when you think of it like that, it's so much easier. So
yeah, I think that's what I need to get my head around. I think the thing I trip myself up on is that I don't have. I think my website is for like quite a broad array of different people types, rather than just a client. So mine is predominantly for, I would say, certainly currently is for the kind of commercial clients that I work with. These big companies, so it's not necessarily like, obviously it's a person reading it, but they might be coming on as a representative of the company they work for, rather than someone needing a personal transformation. But then I do also, as part of a slightly bigger picture, I'm trying to just suck individual people in as well, just to kind of get them into my orbit almost. So I think that's where I struggle. So for me, so I don't think it'd be right for me to go in with like, you're struggling with your this or that, because that's not relevant.
You need it to be a bit more high level, and about what it's more about your niche, isn't it? It's more about kind of really pushing about what your expertise is, and why that specific expertise is going to be important. But it's basically the fact that whether you are a company or whether you are a individual, that you are the expert in kind of mindful interiors that make people, not necessarily you or them, that make people feel in a certain way, or that creates this certain look, or makes a brand look in a certain way, or however. It's a more high level approach, isn't it? It is a bit more subtle. I think you're definitely an advantage when you're working one-to-one and you're able to use personal storytelling and do that, but it's absolutely still possible. Probably go and think about other big brands and think about that, who have that kind of multi-level avatar, and just see how they do it. Although doesn't necessarily mean how they're doing it is working. That's the other thing to bear in mind when you go and look at other people's websites.
Because I do think I notice on a lot of people's websites, and I find particularly if it's like someone who's clearly a small business, and it's just like say a single person making tea cozies or something, or maybe like just two of them doing it, I think that they give off an impression that they're trying to make themselves look bigger than they are. So it's like, we are this and we believe in this, and it's like, I don't mean it derogatively, but like, you're just one person. So to me, I think I would resonate more with them if they were kind of, I am this person.
That's their unique selling point.
Passion. Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of people think it's a weakness that they need to pretend they are, my team will come back to you about this. And it's like, we don't know, it's just you.
It is just you,
yeah. So I think that's where I'm basically struggling, I think, or I need to just work out how to balance the talking I am a this and I've done this, without, as you say, just being a monologue of here's my CV,
Yeah,
but also
exactly.
without trying to make out that I am a, you know, corporation.
I think your key is going to be leading with the benefits, and leading with the benefits and the transfer. You know, what's the benefits of working with me? And that's going to be, you know, years of expertise and specializing in this and knowledge of that, and that's really what it's going to be. It's going to be really leading with the benefits and focusing on that. But yeah, if you do it and you want some feedback, you can always bring it along to a call.
I think I've been threatening to do that for about 6 months now. Next time I'll have it done and I'll bring it.
Okay, there you go. There's
Maybe
some
this-
accountability for you by the 3rd week of February, whenever it is.
Yeah.
You need to have it finished so you can bring it to the next call.
Yeah, well, my website, my new website that isn't up yet, I started it on I got a 6-month free trial for it, and I was like, oh, that'll be fine. I'll have like 5.5 months there. It runs out in 2 weeks, so if I don't have it up and running by Valentine's Day, I have to pay like £150 for it for another year. So I'm not going to. So it has to be done.
It has to be. Okay, that's some real motivation to get your bum in your seat
Yeah,
now.
money, taking money from me is a
Yes.
is going to get me going. So
Actually, somebody I know, actually, she was doing, I can't remember what it was now, whether it was like a new diet or regime or something, and she agreed with her friend to transfer for £500 into her account, not to give to her, but she transferred £500 in an account and saying, if I don't stick to this for the next X amount of time, you will keep the money. And that was her motivation of how to do it. And then at the end of it, she had it transferred back. So that's motivation for you.
Gosh, yeah.
Well, it's the same as hiring a coach, basically. That's the
Well,
that's because basically, like, also it's a mindset thing, because if you, I don't know if you know Rich Litvin. He's
yes, I know. Yeah. Well, not personally, but
yeah, I read this book. It's like Prosperous Coach. So basically, like, it's terrifying when you put yourself out there, you know, and you want to sell yourself. But really, you're not selling yourself. You are offering the possibility to these people to fulfill their dreams by working with you.
yeah.
So, and he says, like, a dream, you know, achieving your dream is priceless.
Yes, exactly.
So, like,
that.
you're offering them, you know, a service. So you're not like selling yourself, like, work with me because you will achieve. Because yeah, you're not selling yourself. You're basically offering
You're
them
selling,
service.
because sales is yeah. I love Rich Litvin. It's a really good book. It's basically the idea that sales is service, and you should never feel icky about it because you're just serving someone. Sales is service. You should actually check it out, actually, Joanna, because although it's predominantly for coaches, I think it's actually a really good process. It's basically about organic client creation, really, and I just think it's really good, sound advice, actually, and it's a really good book. I really should read it again. Actually, I haven't read it for a while.
Yeah,
but yeah,
it's
really
very like, because Rich Litvin is like high achiever, and actually I read this book as a highly sensitive person. I can really feel like, oh my god, when are you gonna stop? Because like he wants more and more and more and more. But like his principles are right.
Yeah, exactly. His principles are right, and it's really good. And the really interesting thing is he's never actually had to advertise or promote the Prosperous Coach. It's just been sold through word of mouth. They've only ever sold it through word of mouth. So it's just really interesting. They sold hundreds of thousands of copies. So very, very clever marketing campaign there, unintentionally, or probably intentionally, actually. So yeah. So
that does sound interesting, because sales is always such a like icky thing, and even like to the degree of like going on social media and that kind of stuff as well. It's always just like,
do you know, that's a really good thing to do, is have maybe put a post-it note on your computer in sales is service. Sales is service, and that is always something, because I don't, you know, I don't find selling not my favorite thing to do, and yet sometimes when I'm in the flow and I know that I'm really excited about sharing something, it is enjoyable, because you're so behind it, and actually that's when actually it's really successful, because people can pick up on the energy of it. And when I'm not feeling it and I'm feeling a bit like, oh, I'm really embarrassed, it never lands as well. And so I don't know, is it completely that mindset shift around sales as service is really useful. But yeah, read it. It's a good book. Yeah, really worth it. So brilliant.
Yeah,
Lovely, ladies. Do you have any other questions or anything, or are we all good for now?
I'm good. I basically had like a one-to-one session, so I'm really
Yeah. Bonus, brilliant. So, but it's going to be really useful for everyone on the replay as well, because we just basically did step by step through AIDA, which is going to be really, really useful for everyone. It's always good to actually see an example of it. So brilliant. Thank you very much for bringing that. That was really
Yeah,
useful.
that was
How
really
about you,
useful
Joanna?
for me as well. Like I say, I think it's yeah, it's just really fresh into that in my head now, and I'm going to crack on and do it tomorrow and stop procrastinating. So I've been spent most of the day sort of staring at the screen.
Okay, we're your accountability now. AIDA,
Yeah,
about page, bringing it to the next session.
yeah, come and have a go at me if I've not done it
I will
next
do.
week.
I'll crack the whip. I'll crack the
Yeah.
whip. All right, brilliant, lovely. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much for bringing all those lovely questions. And I will see you in the group next. I'm trying to think what's going on the rest of this week. We haven't got any more Q&As this week. Where are we? We're on Tuesday. That is it for this week, I think. But yes, we'll be back to normal Q&As inside the Facebook group next week, I think it is. So I will see you all very soon. Have lovely evenings and take
Thank
care.
you.
Good
I
luck
will.
with the writing.
Yeah, I will email you, so then I will crack on writing.
And then I'll share that document with you. Yeah, perfect. Excellent. Do that. Lovely stuff. Have lovely evenings, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.